As we center in together, I'm imagining that we are drinking dark chocolate as I invite you not to pray with and for me. That in this time of meditation and message, that I enter into trust that my destination is love, and that the invitation I offer us together is simply to travel towards that love. As you center in, breathing in, feel yourself supported and surrender to this step, to this pathway. And in the sacred space that we create together, if you are comfortable bringing to mind and heart again that person or situation, a relationship, an incident in your own life or in the larger world that calls out in you a sense of judgment, bring that gently into this sacred space. And hold it gently. Using the gift of mind to imagine this is bathed in the light of oneness. This person, this situation, this hurt is bathed in the blessing of divine light. Surround your own heart with the blessing of divine light. Clear away the fog that hides the divine light that you are. That this situation is, this person is, this beloved is. And trust the divine light of healing. The divine light of grace. Makes way for the blessing that is there beyond what we can imagine. Surrender to the blessing. Surrender to the blessing. surrender to the sweet blessing of releasing our need to be right in order to prove someone else is wrong. Surrender to the blessing of forgiveness, self-forgiveness, compassion, self-compassion. Then breathing deeply, exhaling fully. Come back into this moment, just as it is, just as you are. It is a funny thing, after being a teacher for so many years, to really recognize over and over again that we teach what we need to know. So the little prodding of spirit when it was clear that it was time to reintroduce the gift to the community of a Wednesday night class, I thought, oh, well, I really loved using the 4 agreements when I was teaching. It made for great classroom management agreements, like, we're not going to take things personally, blah, 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 blah. We teach what we need to know. So it's been an inner journey of recognizing, even in this first introduction and chapter of a book that I thought I knew but had not truly really read, cover to cover. So the whole idea of this physical life as illusion, those of you who've been in unity circles for a long time, that's not a new concept to you. It wasn't necessarily a new concept to me, but it is one that I am coming to know more deeply. What does it mean to be able to take a big enough step back and this life, this self, this personality, this way of being in the world that I'm really attached to, whether I'm attached to my shine or my shift, that to me is part of the journey for not taking things personally. But what does that mean? To see the illusion of separateness for what it is. I can say those words, but until I step back in trust that my thought becomes my word, becomes my pathway, and that prayer is the bittersweet chocolate, and it is the light of the moon, and it is the light in the eyes of the people I encounter, even when those beings may push my buttons. That is all part of my prayer. It is part of my showing up to hold the high watch. It is all part of my being in communion with my community and beyond my community. So I don't know about you, but I have a whole laundry list of things that cause me to go into that judgment mind. My adult kids can still say to me, "Oh, Mom, not the look. Really, not the look. The mom look." Like, we go into judgment about simple things. Who cut me off in traffic? Who's making me run a little bit late for the, appointment? Who hasn't shown up to finish the job that I thought would be finished 8 months ago? We are spirit beings having a human existence. I didn't make that up, but I grapple with it. Maybe you grapple with that too. So through the lens of Don Miguel Ruiz and the Four Agreements, in the introduction he talks about, in the first chapter, what you're seeing right now is nothing but a dream. You are dreaming with the brain awake. Dreaming is the main function of the mind. And the mind dreams 24 hours a day when the brain is awake and when the brain is asleep. The dream of the planet is the collective dream of billions of smaller personal dreams, which together create a dream of a family, a dream of a community, of a city, of a country, a dream of the whole of humanity. The dream of the planet includes all of society's rules, its beliefs, its laws, its religions, its different cultures and ways to be. That collective dream is one of the reasons we have a day set aside in memory of people who have given service by giving their lives. That collective dream that separates us from the deeper truth that there is no separation. Don Miguel Ruiz talks about mitote. Our whole mind is a fog. My mind feels foggier on some days than it does on others, but I could really buy into the truth of this. Your mind is a dream where 1,000 people talk at the same time and nobody understands each other. This is the condition of the human mind, a big mitote. And with that big mitote, you cannot see what you really are. Today is also Pentecost. And in that room, it was as though tongues of fire landed on the beloved disciples' heads so that they could understand multiple languages. They could understand each other. The gift of spirit is what helps us to get past the fog that is that dream that we are separate. The outside dream has so many rules that we internalize it and it becomes the book of law. That was a kind of a holy wow. On Wednesday night, I shared with the folks who were a part of the group on Zoom and in person. It was interesting to have spent some time with two of my kids, my two daughters, and then my grandson. So to feel that trajectory of the book of law, what's right and what's wrong. We have to live in community with each other. There are ways that we make that easier or harder for each other to live in community with each other. It's why some of those programming things happen. But what happens when the programming helps us to forget who we really are? That we go beyond learning how to live in community with differing needs and differing understandings. And we show up with only part of who we are in public because we don't want anybody to see what's really underneath our mask. We are so conditioned by those rules to be a certain way that what happens when somebody bumps up against us that makes us think differently about something we really liked about ourselves? Oy. It's not easy. In the story, The Velveteen Rabbit, the rabbit doesn't become real till all his fur is rubbed away. There are so many entry points into understanding what it is to be real. what it is to be authentic, what it is to go beyond the dream of the illusion of separateness, the dream that we should be a certain way because that's what our parents told us, that's what our teachers told us, that's what our church told us, that's what our job tells us, that's what our spouse tells us, that's what our kids tell us, that we should be a certain way. When we peel back those layers, when we rub the fur away so that we're left with what is vulnerable, what sometimes feels raw and unprotected, what's left? How do we then relate to each other in this living dream? And then as I was grappling with all of that, with the book, in walked Patricia Pierce, and I really pictured these two texts having a conversation in those thousands of my voices in my head, because it helped, because one of the things that I go really quickly into judgment about is the bigger world. The political climate in our own country, what's going to happen, what's going to happen, what's going to happen. And Patricia Pierce, in her blog post this week, Love's Default, recognizes the moment that we're living in culturally, in the collective dream of our culture. But she says this: if you've followed my work for any period of time, you'll know that I sometimes look at global events through the lens of dream work. It is a helpful way to understand at a deeper level what we are experiencing collectively. Because this human drama is a type of dream in which we are playing out an utterly implausible scenario, namely separateness. In this dream of separateness, we are unaware of our eternal union with love. Asleep to the interconnectedness of all being, oblivious to our own divine nature. You could say we humans are on this planet dreaming our impossible dream. In this state of unconsciousness, we have fashioned a world that depicts and reinforces all the fear and suffering that arise from the absurd notion that we can be separated from love. The dream of separateness is fueled primarily by judgment. Judgment is the mechanism the mind uses to divide, to render unworthy, to induce shame, to cast out and cast away. In other words, judgment is the means by which the mind denies the universality and unconditional nature of love. It is the snooze button the mind can reliably turn to keep awareness of love at bay and keep dreaming a bit longer. It's no wonder our world right now is aflame in judgment. But Rumi once said, though we seem to be sleeping, there is an inner wakefulness that directs the dream and will eventually startle us back to the truth of who we are. When we pay attention to the dream as dream, we access that inner wakefulness and discover that the dream can aid us in our awakening. I do invite you to read the whole blog post. I excerpted heavily from it, but it is a powerful reading for this moment. But I'll finish with her words here, or finish her words right now. I'm not quite finished. Right now, The dream is showing us that the way forward is to respond to this moment at both levels. So you'll have to go back and read what those levels are. But to express love by honoring our promises to one another, and to be love by disengaging from all judgment. How does that land? Oh, it is not easy, right? It is so simple for me to stand up here and say, yep, we're just going to love by disengaging from all judgment. Just set it aside. Set it aside. That's all. That's all we have to do. That is all we have to do. And it is our life's work. It is our inner journey that begins from those first moments of programming. Oh, you're such a good girl. You're such a good boy. Until the moment we recognize that we don't have to do a thing to be loved because we are love. And we awaken to that over and over again because we go to sleep over and over again. Your mind is a dream where 1,000 people talk at the same time and nobody understands each other. This is the condition of the human mind. And from Acts, divided tongues as a fire appeared among them, and a tongue rested on each of them. All of them were filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in other languages as the Spirit gave them ability. We are called to deeply understand each other as ourselves, to love each other as we love ourselves. Both sides of that equation can be really challenging. Blessing is what transforms judgment. That which calls forth judgment in us, Spirit asks us to pause, to pray or not to pray, to bless that which is in the way we see it in that moment that called forth the judgment, and to bless the infinite possibilities for healing and wholeness that exist beyond our comprehension. Blessing transforms judgment. So here are some unity principles that might seem familiar, that tied right on in to a line in the 4 agreements, that God is everywhere, and everything and everyone is a manifestation of God. It is on our website if you haven't read it lately. God is spiritual in nature and is source and creator of all. God is loving, good, and present everywhere. There is no other power aside from God. So unless God has made a mistake, unless Spirit has made a mistake, here we are. These are the just right people for us to learn how to grow with and from, because here we are. So how is Spirit calling forth in us the gift of pausing? The gift of our whole life being prayer. I love that song, and it's so connected to that. It is one of my favorites in that book of beautiful poem prayers. Everything we do, everyone we encounter, every joy, every misstep, every heartbreak is there for us. In that dreaming, to awaken to the truth that love is who we are. Love is what we do, but love is who we are. And that's it. Simple. And in the not always easy living that out, we come to this communion together to strengthen ourselves and to strengthen each other along the way. The gift of Spirit, the gift of Pentecost, is the reminder. Doesn't matter if there were literal or metaphysical tongues of fire, it is the fire of Spirit that calls forth in us. Wake up. Wake up. You are love. Wake up. You are love. Wake up and don't go back to sleep. And so it is. Amen. Amen.